All right, 6 o'clock, call the September 1st, 2021 Fire Service Advisory Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda, we'll need to approve the minutes from the June 17th, 2021 meeting. Don't have time to review those.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Have a motion to accept.
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries to approve the June 17th minutes. Call on the standing committee, the radio communications report.
We're still at about the same place we were the last time. I think that possibly the equipment for Lever Hall came in.
Correct.
Okay, I don't know if it's been installed yet.
We are trying to get the contractor to
Okay.
install it.
Good.
It is here and ready to be installed.
Great. And I'm not sure if the equipment for the testing and the repeater for Salem water tank has been ordered.
It was, I don't have confirmation that it's on the way or anything, but it's been put through the process to be ordered.
Good.
Both the testing units and Lever Hall, or Salem water.
Right, good, thank you. More departments and squads are buying mobiles and portables. We're programming them. I've been trying to get in touch with Travis to find out how he wants the program to be done as far as the identifying for each unit. I think that he's the one to tell us that since it's his system. Do you know anything about that, Scott?
I know.
Okay. We haven't heard from any more squads or departments about problem areas, so I'm assuming it is the way it is right now. The ones who have reported will do testing in their areas, and the ones that haven't reported will have to assume that those areas are okay.
Steve, I do have one thing.
Yes, sir.
We've been working, we are going to be Friday, we're going to be pulling down a 75 to 100 foot radio tower. We've got a crane to pull it down, and so after the testing, that'll give us one that we don't have to pay for. So we'll just have to get it re-erected, and if you know, wherever that need arises for one of those listening sites, it would be a tower that we'd be able to install without, you know, we'd have to pour some concrete, reinstall it, wire it, but the tower part was given to us, so.
The one from Westminster?
Yes.
So
they were gonna, power lines go right through where it sits, and they don't need it anymore. They've made other arrangements, so if we removed it, we could have it. So Friday, we will be doing that.
It's still in real good shape?
Yeah, it's a good shape. It's a 3-frame style metal tower.
So going back just on the radio identification system, does the commission need to reach out, or y'all just still waiting on Mr. Tilson's?
no, I
Direction.
think it'll go okay.
Okay.
I know we're gonna have to touch every radio at least once before January 1st. I was hoping that the radios that we're programming now that have been coming in wouldn't have to be touched again, but they may be.
So Austin is not going to be able to make it. Sorry,
Who is that?
Austin is not.
I want to add that at the chief's meeting, we shared that Steve requested that we get radio lists together from those departments and all to him. that list was completed and passed on to him. So he does have that now.
Appreciate it.
Director Crine?
One of the big things that I wanted to go over, first thing for us is this fire advisory seat that's open. We have been through 2 votes. We started off with 5 people, and we had no majority of people from that. There was the first vote, 47 people voted, and we had, everyone got votes and no one had a majority. So we went into our second vote, which actually just finished last night. One of the reasons why we wanted to make sure we had this commission meeting now so that we could make decisions. The second vote, there was 52 voters with the 5 departments, and basically there's no specific winner of that either. The breakdown is we have 2 that are significantly above the others. We have Mr. Blackwell with had 18 votes the first time, 17 votes the second time for 35. We had Visage 13 votes and 20 votes for a total of 33. Mr. Sanders was 9 the first time and 7 the second time for 16 votes. Mr. Ellis was 6 votes and 8 votes for 14. And then Mr. Ashton the first time with 1 vote, and he dropped out on the second round. With that said, going to the attorney and asking, we have 2 options: to continue with voting until it comes out, or the commission, as you are elected body, to choose the top 2 from the voting for us to go to the next vote, which would allow there to be a majority, because there would only be 2 people. We technically could have a tie if we had 40 votes and 20 and 20. But to get a majority, only having 2 of the, after 2 votes of the 2 highest people. In both votes, Mr. Visage and Mr. Blackwell were the highest in both of the votes to begin with. But that would need to come from the commission, because, we don't govern how that goes. Robert's Rule of Order and all that says you need to have a majority of the vote. So we can continue to go through elections and hope we seat someone. Or the board can choose to say we're going to choose the next vote the only 2 people on the ballot will be the top 2 of the last 2 elections to get a majority to fill the seat.
Make a motion, we do that. The top 2 people will just have a runoff. See who wins.
All right, we basically have a motion to suspend the rules that will have the top 2 vote getters off both of those 1 and 2 election. And
Can we
then
do this,
present
guys?
those.
Sure, yeah, please.
I know you and I talked the other day, but it was, my mind wasn't that clear, but I don't think we've ever had to do this route, ever. I mean, this may be the first time it's come this way, I don't know. But it seems like there's always been whoever had the most is pretty much the one that got it. I mean, now if it was like by 1 point or 1 vote, maybe it was a little different. But I mean, in some cases, he'd been more than 1 or more. I forgot who you said who had it.
Well, they actually swapped one. The first time it was Mr. Blackwell with the lead, and the second time it was Mr. Visage. Both times, they were both close. And Mr. Blackwell overall has, with points together, is 2 points above Mr. Visage. The issue being is we are truly following the Robert's Rule of Order in that, and says you have to have a majority. So not just win the numbers, it's a majority of the votes. And so with 52 votes, you have to have 26 or more votes to actually have a majority of that election.
Even with that many people was on there, I mean, you got 4 different people, 4 people.
Correct, but that you still have to have the majority of the votes to win the election. And I didn't do the most of the time there wasn't 5 people on the ballot, so someone easily could have gotten the majority of those votes in one election because there wasn't 5 people on the ballot.
Have y'all had this many run before?
Yeah.
Chief?
Yeah. Oh, several times, actually.
I just wondering, 'cause
And it's always been just whoever's had the most votes has been pretty much the winner out of it.
We're looking at following the, you know,
Hey, I'm
we're all trying to
I'm
follow.
not trying to
what-
say nothing, I'm
yeah.
just,
When it wasn't specifically said in there, I went to the attorney and asked the attorney. And he said, you know, the majority is the number one. And you have two options to get that majority. Continue to vote until either people drop off because they don't have enough and you only get two people.
I don't think the ordinance reads majority or 51%.
It doesn't, right, that's what puts us into going to Robert's Rule of Order and the municipal, process that we go through, which gives us that majority rule, because it doesn't exempt us in our bylaws, in our ordinance, because it doesn't state it. If it stated just the highest number, then that would exempt us from that piece of it, but it doesn't exempt us from following the rules that are set by the county in the process of election of a commission. And we've never had that before, because in some cases, we weren't always following the letter of the law, and when it didn't show up and we had a question, I asked.
I mean, and what I'm thinking now is the word majority was misused, basically, because sometimes you look at it, well, he had the majority of the votes over that, so, I mean, that's, I don't know if that's what's has been taking place in the years past, I don't know.
I don't know.
It doesn't have, I mean, unless something in Robert's Rules of Order says its majority is 51%.
Yeah, I mean, that is what it means in there. It means of all the votes, you have to have a full majority, in other words, more than 50% of the vote, according to when I ran it through the attorney.
Well, that's what, you know, like here, at least 3 of us out of the 5 got to be here to make 51% of it. I'm new at all this, so I don't know Robert Rule of Order, all that stuff himself. I didn't know in the presidential elections and all that, they usually just get down to 2 and have a runoff for the,
Well, there's a motion on the floor, but no second.
I'll run that, Steve, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just according to the Robert Rules of Order, it talks about the definition of majority. It says that a majority simply stated is more than half, not 50% plus 1, not more than half, not one more than half, just more than half. And then you get into the deal of plurality. If you've got more than 3 people on a ballot, you can just get into an exhaustive balloting over and over. If you, I
don't
mean,
do
we
something
could redo this for the 3rd time, and you'd still, you could still shake out the same way, so.
That's why I'm coming to you now for your decision on, do we want to keep, you know, we've done 2, you know, and we're going to go to a 3rd, but I would like to make sure that there would be a majority of the vote so that we can seat that person to represent that. You know, right now, that region doesn't have a representative.
So your motion's still on the floor, and we don't have a second yet.
motion to just have a runoff between the 2 top. It takes 3 or 4 out of the vote.
We'll take 2 out.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second, take the top 2 vote winners and move them back to the electorate to have them voted on again. So, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? None. Motion carries.
Right, we will go and do those 5 elections again with Mr. Visage and Mr. Blackwell being the top 2 of those for the runoff for that seat.
Now, with this seat,
It's actually, because it's after September, it actually seats for 2 years. Just, because it's one that's due. If it would have happened in May, technically, we would have had to re-elect in
Right.
October. But because it's in the process going into that, it will cease.
Is it 1 and 4 that's up?
No, it's 1, 3, and 5. I believe. No, I'm sorry. 2. No, it's 2 and 4, and so this one only seats for a year. For the remainder of it.
Okay.
One is Travis's seat.
Right.
When do we need to hold elections for those seats?
I sent the emails out today to those chiefs in that area, and actually named you as the sitting chair at the present time. And if those folks wish to sit, your name's on there too, to put your name on there to remain. So I sent that to Region 2 and Region 4.
But when is the elections to be done? I didn't,
October.
but I haven't checked the email.
Yeah, it goes October, November, elections in October. If it's not, we go to November. Hopefully, and again, we will have the answer. Any other questions on that? Incentive committee, wanted to get to you as you wanted to form the board and the group. I provided you with that. The biggest things is all physicals need to be in ERS, and we need to have a copy of those to be eligible. Everyone needs to have a CPR, have had CPR training and or certificate. We need to make sure that is in and is required to be in ERS. If you are a responder, you're required to have a card. Just that is the rules for responding for medical calls. We need to make sure those cards, that is within date. They run out basically. Also, it's not you have training one time and it lasts forever. CPR is not one of those. It's a 2-year card. The hours for training on the fire side is 20 hours, but because of COVID and the shutting down of different places for many different meetings, we've chosen to waive 10 hours of those. So it's the same as before. Then we just waived 10 of the hours. 10 hours for the responder additional. Then with that, we also have said we're waiving 5 of that, to cut 5 of that process. 10 hours is required for special rescue teams, being dive and special rescue hazmat, and 5 of those have also been waived due to COVID protocols. Administrative duties, there's 50 points to put in for a person or multiple people to be split per department for that administrative duties. What I will say is we need to make sure that our rosters are up to date. We are going through the rosters and making sure we've given it to Human Resources to make sure that everyone's paperwork is correct and to get those out there so we can get them out hopefully the first part of September to actually let people start fixing them so they have 2 months to fix those. Because we all know that becomes a lot of paperwork and a lot of shuffling to do, but we are taking the rosters that are submitted to do that with, to get everyone's paperwork correct. Until we reach that point, we're not going to know everyone that's getting a check. Until we hit October 1, get all our physicals in, start looking at that. I really would like to push for this because last year it was into January and people were still turning in paperwork saying I needed to have an incentive. We need to have a cutoff date to say if your paperwork and your stuff is not in, we don't need to keep on going back for a check and going back for one person and going back because we're telling everyone right now, and so I need to make sure that the commission goes and tells all your chiefs that they need to have their paperwork in to make sure their people are eligible for incentive. We're not eliminating people. They are if they don't turn the paperwork in. It has to be in the system, to make sure that they're eligible for an incentive, for that. So any questions on that from what the committee came up with?
Yes.
Okay?
This criteria that you just listed, this is for up to the closeout October the 1st.
Correct.
Okay. Number
Sorry.
two, is there an avenue, it may be too late, an avenue for this paperwork to be submitted online? Is there any?
No,
Okay,
not for the human resources paperwork.
okay. Would that be a possibility in the future?
I can check.
Okay.
But come October 1st, this changes back to 20 hours for both this time, right? Or
Yes.
for all this time?
For all.
So that will be a new paperwork coming out as of October.
That's all I had on that.
All right, the last one is, there's been a lot of discussion about this. When we're talking no response. So the goal is not to not to help and not to change anything. The goal is we have to document when we're the only people responding. We have to also document on what we're doing. We came in this year and said, hey, we need some people to do this because we have an area that's not responding real well, and we need to have help down there because our response time, the number of calls is going up, and our response time is not good when there's not someone in that district for that time. So with that said, we went through and said, how can we do this? One of the ways to do that is actually documenting if a department doesn't show up. If a volunteer doesn't show up, we need to document that because then it is 100% being done by a staff person. And that's when we need more people, when there's not enough staff to run. It's not to run off volunteers, it's to say, hey, we're documenting what our staff is doing. And so that was the main reason for this. The fire departments are not going to be penalized and not get a no response for a medical call. It's not in your charter, you're not required to do it. A lot of you are helping out the rescue squads in doing so by doing that. But if you have a medical call that you don't respond to, it's not a negative against you. That call is not a chartered call for your fire department and not required for you to go. Exception of Corn Shiloh, who chose years ago to be their own rescue squad and didn't want anyone in that. So in their case, since there is no rescue squad in their area or covering their area anymore because they chose to do that, if they miss a medical call, that will be counted against them because they chose to say they no longer want Rescue 1 to respond to their call. So all the other districts have a rescue squad, in some cases that aren't running, that we need documentation on too, and don't need them to have 100% of their calls that they're not answering, or a department that's not answering a call. So we have good data. So we can show what we need and where we need it. If your department is running all their calls and making the calls, there's going to be a report for you and there's no problem. And there's no problem if you can't. It's about we have to document what is going on and what is happening. Not you didn't do a good job. We know you're volunteers. You may not be able to run a call. And that is okay. That's why we have staff. And that's why we run those calls. What we have to do is do a better job of documentation on how we track that, because we need staff in places, and that's the best way to do it, is to show that an example of Mountain Rest runs a lot of their calls, has a good call response a lot of time, but if they don't make a call, we need to know that. Or if they start not running calls, we need to know that all of a sudden this whole area does not have a response at all. And maybe we need to increase staffing in the future, or as we build out a plan to continue to support everyone in the county. Because this is about the citizens. It's not about me, it's not about you, it's not about your fire department. It's about the citizens of Macomb County. And they deserve somebody coming to serve them, not just, it's not about who did this and who did what. We have to document it so we can better guide the future of Macomb County Emergency Services as a whole in Macomb County. So that is what that goes. I know there was a big discussion on how it's all gonna go, in the chiefs meeting, but that is what's the piece of it, how it goes, why it's being done, what's the purpose of it, and, what's the goal.
My biggest issue with it is the fact that, well, for one, the med stuff was done for the 21 staff, or the 40-hour staff at the stations. When we don't have one there, then I think, it ain't nothing, I ain't trying to say it's reflecting anything on me, it's for the people. The 21-2, which will be in my area, should be toned out automatically with those calls. Because what they're doing is they're toning out like Rescue 3 and the Med 13. Then they're retoning Rescue 3 and Med 13. So you got 5, 6, 7 minutes before 21-2 is even toned out. That 7 minutes could save somebody's life big time.
I agree, and that's why.
That's what I would like to get changed.
Okay.
Somehow, shape, form, or fashion, because, they are there to run the calls, and they're willing to run the calls, but they don't run it until they call are toned out, and I get that. I just think that on a medical call, they need to be toned out automatically.
Some of the reasons why we're trying to do the GPS location system that tells the CAD system that we're closest to know who to send, is for that purpose, to send the right person. Now, the first go around on that, I'll be the first one to say, it didn't work. And so we had to reevaluate how it worked and do all that. We're not putting in, the hospital system, it's roughly $500 or $600 a month per ambulance, with all the stuff and all those big, fancy stuff they're doing with it. We were not going to that extent to do that. And that's a lot of trucks that we have to do that to, and we're not planning on doing that. So we are in the process. We have a couple more trucks ready to go. We're waiting for the CAD upload to do it, so we can start trying to look at that, to try to do exactly what you're talking about. Send the right unit first, closest, or the closest unit first. Because right now, it doesn't know if 21-1 is that motor pool out of service because it had to take a truck or anything. It doesn't know any of that. So with the new system, it'll look and see that those staff trucks are somewhere, and they can go, here's the staff truck. We're sending, it may be at Station 8, the closest immediate response, and they could be added immediately to it, because the CAD system, if it works, will say, the box alarm says Station 13 and the closest 21 unit. The closest 21 unit may be the one in your station, or it may be the one at 12, because it's the closest staff unit, and not sending, we got accused of sending people by other people, and you're right, we were doing that some. We were sending a 21-1 truck when it passed a 40-hour person in the station, and that shouldn't happen either. That, we want to send the right person, closest person to those calls to help the citizen the most. But it all comes down to, we have to have good data. This program, we're trying to push it out. We had some money last year. We started the program, a little money this year. We're starting to finish that test. And some of it's we're not getting equipment in, and trying to get it loaded into CAD and all that is taking 100 times more than I thought it would. I didn't realize it was going to be as hard as it was to get that project on the road.
I want to add to Chief Prop that with that, the calls in that area and everything, so I'm hearing what you're saying, that the med trucks in those stations was supposedly set up for just 21 staff. After the chiefs meeting, I had at least 5 to 6 people come up, didn't speak out in the meeting, but said that also the 21 or the med boxes were started for fire departments that wanted to run medical calls also. And then it started out, and I'm going off what I was told,
And you're right.
was that they were started for departments that wanted to help medical. And then it bled into 21 to where 21, so it started out, the volunteer bled into 21, and I agree, we gotta get some folks out there, get it better, send the right people closest. But again, it's, you know, if somebody calls 911, we need to get them help. Whether it's us or whether it's the volunteer.
I mean, and I'm not sitting here trying to fuss about anything. I want it, I mean, if it's me or my daddy or my family, I want them, the closest person there,
Right.
and at night, I mean, the 21 staff is, I mean, I can say they're the closest, but they're pretty close to me. I mean, within anybody else. I just don't want them having like basically a 14-minute delay. If it takes them 7 minutes to get to me, and 7 minutes for them to be toned out, that's 14 minutes. So I don't want that delay when they can always be turned around.
I'm gonna kind of touch on some of that here in a little bit too.
Okay.
Well, I agree with my guys at my stations are wanting the 21 guys toned out first, and then the volunteers will go back them up if they need help or.
Just on medical calls.
Yeah, on medical stuff at night, left assist. But that's what they're complaining to me about, or discussing with me about. The 21 guy getting to stay in the bed, and they're going out there and lifting grandma on the floor as a
Trust
volunteer.
me,
Well,
that's
I explained to them, I said,
that's happening all.
it's all working in the, just take the process.
Everybody's doing that.
And again, we hope that a lot of that, we could change the box alarm to say on a medical call, send the closest 21 unit, not designate a unit. Because when your 40-hour person's there, he answers to the med tone. Dispatch doesn't change it at 5 o'clock at night. It's the same box alarm 24 hours a day. So they tone the med tone, if we're staffed or not.
I asked that question about shutting it down at 5. It's not feasible with the system
The way it's set up.
Well,
for it to operate, because then you're gonna have, it's like the old switchboard when they used to sit here on Mayberry and do this. They can't do that.
Chief Norris and I discussed this the other day, and I don't know if he's actually got in touch with you on it or not, but he's kind of got somewhat of a little plan. And he and I was gonna sit down next Tuesday, I think, and just look at it and see what we can do. We're gonna meet a little earlier, because he's coming down to do some stuff for us.
Well, if we could look at that with you.
So, I mean,
With you and I've talked.
he's got a certain plan in that might could work. I don't know. We'll see.
Doing the same thing over and over again, thinking we're gonna get a different outcome? We gotta be willing to change. Everyone has to be willing to change in our system to better it for the citizens of Coney County. And it's hard on both sides, because there's things that we do all the time that we need to change to. We need to look at both sides. Everything we do, from dispatch to how it comes out of the hospital, we're working on that. I don't know, we had the big CAD change, how things are toned out. Again, getting back to setting the right unit, not just a unit.
Well, that's our guy, like, they didn't realize how much this was gonna take to run medical calls. We got 8 EMR at Special 11. After about 2 months, now we've got about 2 EMR that run with it. But,
Right.
it's in your blood. If you go be a volunteer somewhere, get up and go help people. I can't just lay there and listen to the radio and not try to go help. if I'm available to go ahead.
Chief, I do have one more question on what we're talking about. Getting the right people there at the right time, whatever. How can we work it, and I've asked this before when Chief King was here, but, like my division down, I'm close to the county line, the Anderson County line. And a lot of my medical calls are within a mile, half a mile to a mile of the county line. And I know it takes Oconee, even if they're at Oakway or if they're at Seneca, to get there, it takes 10 to 12 minutes. When Fort Rescue could be there within 2 minutes, especially if it's cardiac arrest. Some of the other calls, maybe, not, but on the cardiac arrest stuff, could they not be put in the box? Because,
So
there'd be a minutes right there.
We'll need to reevaluate the mutual aid process on that, because the mutual aid is with Townville Fire Department, not the rescue squad, and it is, and that was done, I didn't do any of that, so we'll have to
I think the
reevaluate.
current situation in Anderson County's changed.
Well, it is,
That
but
too.
it's still there. I think they're gonna be able to run some kind of call or hire. They're still gonna be able to have some people there to run the call. But what I was told in years past, it was, at Button Heads and Med and Greenwood back then was Greenwood Hospital System, whatever. So, no, you're not gonna run our calls because we're getting the money out of this,
Well,
But it was told if I, as a chief, I could call and request them if I wanted to.
so the hospital system has the right to EMS calls for transport in a county county. They want to run a first response medical call, they can run a first response medical call. It does not change the fact that the hospital system will be coming as the ALS provider for Tacoma County. We don't want to get into the elimination of area and those things, because the hospital system is so gracious in what they do and working on putting more trucks down there 24 hours a day and all of that also to better your response in that area from an ambulance perspective. But that is the hospital's jurisdiction for ALS transport is Oconee County. And that's that gray line that we have to negotiate to get the right person to your calls. That's all I have on the agenda for me.
Chief Greer?
So, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Most of you sitting there, we talked about this at the Chiefs meeting the other night, of course, being that this meeting delayed in the month. So the Afg Grant, of course, we did get it. That's huge. We got one of the biggest monies we could get as far as that grant for the SCBA's, and the committee is being built at this time. Email has been sent out to the chiefs and actually taking names at the present, because we come up with a 15-person panel to actually look at the SCBA's that they want to try out, use. Currently, most departments use Scott. There are a couple that use MSA, and that committee is being put together at the present time. Right now, the only folks I have on the committee at the present time, or they're not on the committee yet, but the names that are being looked at, being seated on that committee is officers right now. So we're going to put 4 officers from the volunteer side on it and 4 firefighters. Have no firefighter names yet at this present. Okay, so we are in need of those. With that committee, Honeycutt, which has done a lot of legwork with these SCBA's, recording and everything else, he will sit on the committee for us, Brady, and Livingston, because he's a technician, as far as a back technician. So he'll be on it, 3 of our firefighters. So that's 8 volunteers, 6 of our guys, and then 1 person from hazmat special teams. So that's kind of what that committee is going to look like. And as I spoke in the chiefs meeting, Brady leading that, since he was a big part of that grant being written and received and everything. He's heading up that committee, and they will pick 5 voting members to narrow it, because if we go with 15, then here we are with a big election again. So take it down to 5 members to vote on what pack we go with. So that's kind of what we're looking at with AFG. Everybody good with that? Tony, Chief Brock and Chief Burton heard this the other night, but the social media policy, you guys have that in front of you. I passed one of those out, and this is the version that Mr. Root came up with after we sent what we had. We had passed it one time here, went to the chiefs meeting. It did not pass, or there was some issues with it. So instead of going on with a fight, anything, this went to the attorney. The attorney looked at it, made some changes in the social media policy, and basically some of the wording changed that the chiefs wanted changed in here. So it basically, the material is yours for your members to use how you see fit, or if you have a social media team like some departments have. And then at the bottom, there were steps in there. He said it's according to that chief, what kind of step, if this individual, and then if y'all want me to get involved with you and us talk about it, whatever. If you look down at the discipline, it is broke down into disciplinary action, including but not limited to reprimand, suspension, and termination. So it's kind of up to that chief in that department, what you kind of come up with. So this is before you. I know you already passed this one time, but this is what the attorney came up with. This was documentation that was fixed, repaired, and the attorney says this is the way it should be written. And now it's in you guys' hands if this is what you wish to adopt. And then if you guys wish to adopt this, this will be passed.
Need a motion recommending adoption of this policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. We adopt this SOP. All those in favor, or any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? None. Motion carries.
Thank you, man. So the physicals, shared this the other night, also at the chief's meeting. Tony, so you can hear this. So basically, with 1582, the OSHA regs and everything that we have to stay up with as firefighters. And this is all across the state, all across the nation. So with that, for those men and women going interior firefighting or going into an IDLH atmosphere, they have to have what NFPA calls it as a level A physical. We here in Oconee call it a level 1. And that level 1 can be given by North Greenville Fitness, or it can be given by Upstate. So either one of those facilities can do that. If those individuals, for some odd reason, fail a portion of that test, then North Greenville, I know they send it, they pass them, see what's wrong. If there's something there health-wise, then if their doctor, whether it's cardiac related, whatever's related to health-wise, I had to do it one time because they thought I had something wrong with my liver. But the good thing is there was nothing wrong, but I went and had it checked anyway. But that's what the level 1 is for. Level 1 is actually called level A in NFPA 1582. That's for those folks operating in an IDLH atmosphere. Okay? The level 2, which is what Oconee calls it, and what we call it, NFPA calls it a level B. So with it being a level B, reading deeper into 1582, we can kind of write that position to go along with our folks that are volunteering. That actually has come up. I've listened, I've heard it, and we can write those positions because on that we created a form. They can take and get that, check it off. It talks about their health, food, what they eat, stuff like this. They can take it to their doctor. North Greenville doesn't offer a level 2. They only offer level 1, or A, as NFPA recognizes. 2 can be done at upstate, okay? Or if they take this form and they want to go to their doctor, they take it and go to their doctor, and it's got on there all the information that that doctor may need to know about their medical history, because that's something that NFPA requires, is for that doctor that's signing off on you, so he knows your medical history. Of course, if it's your family doctor, he should know it anyway. But it gives him some stuff to go off of as far as your medical history. He may know something that's happened in the past, but he may not know something that happened in the present. So at least with some of these forms and stuff you can fill out, they can look at. And with this, we can write the job description as that is a person that is either an officer that operates outside the scene, that actually doesn't go into IDLH, the smoke-filled environment, the chemical environment, or it could be a driver operator of a apparatus that is a member that just does EVDT. So we can write that description to where that was kind of your level 2, level 3 firefighter from my understanding before. So it would basically fit that realm to where we're covering those folks that drive and that show up to the scene and can operate on the scene. By writing a firefighter level 1, which is a firefighter level 2, which is a B, which these folks that can still have the requirements, that may not be that they can wear an SBA. There's a place on there. Do you wear an SBA? Yes, no. If you're not going to wear an SBA, you check no, that automatically is going to make you a level B or a level 2, just because now you're not wearing the SBA. So there, it makes you an operational person outside, or it makes you a driver. Does that kind of make sense? So it's going in the wheelhouse of kind of like what y'all were looking for, and it's something that benefits the career side, it's something that benefits the volunteer side, because it's kind of watching out for everybody. And if they don't have the level 1, level 2 clearance, then they shouldn't be on that scene unless they're rescued, doing medical control, rehab or something like that. And then there will be an admin physical for those admins through upstate. So we got most of the paperwork done on that. Mr. Root has looked at that. He's had multiple conversations with us, so we make sure we do the right thing for our firefighters here in Oconee. And when I say firefighters, that's all of them. Whether they get a check and send a check, whatever, that we make sure you guys, our men and women, go home at the end of the day and they go home healthy. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And the only thing that we got to kind of finish up on is the job description for that level 2, because we got to go kind of pretty in depth with what a level 1 and a level 2 does. So that's kind of where we're at with that physical. Y'all got any questions on that?
How many job descriptions are you coming up with?
We're coming up with a level 1
Just 2?
and a level 2. And if we need to, just to make sure what admin is, so we have a description of that. If y'all request an admin description, we can do an admin description.
I think if I remember reading the standard right, you can have multiple job descriptions. They just got to
Yes.
tie into A or B.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So the level A, like you was reading, that's more of your kind of do-all guy,
Correct.
multi-tool.
Correct.
And then that level 2 guy was that pump operator, kind of what we're, and we're gonna put all that in there so that kind of covers everybody. Very good question. Any other questions on that? Does that kind of sound like the avenue y'all was wanting to go down?
Yes.
Okay. So the operation model, I shared this at the chief's meeting that night. This is something, as going to these meetings and stuff, and our staff and everything, that we can agree in the fire service, whether volunteer or career, we always can improve in our communication. Because usually in-house, on calls, training, whatever the case be, if you ever look at it, communication. So I want to communicate. I shared it with the chiefs the other night, kind of our operational model right now at the present time. Mondays and Fridays are usually the off days of our 40s while they're out there working in the stations. Some stations have them right now, some stations don't. We're in the hiring process at the point in time, but I think I've said it in this meeting before, that Tuesday through Thursday is loaded, because if we got everybody full, then every station should have somebody in it. So hopefully we get back to that once we get more folks hired. And that's when they're there. They're either there Monday through Thursday, but Monday's gonna be off day because some of them flex, because they're working Tuesday through Friday. But our loaded days is Tuesday through Thursday, where we balance some people off on their 40s is Mondays and Fridays. So that's kind of the operation model with the 40s. And then kind of what we're doing now with the squads, they are not a roamer. That word has been used loosely and way too loosely. They are not roamers. They are support. They are helping manage these folks in the area. They're not riding around just sitting in the air conditioning, listening to a radio, podcast, or whatever. Their job is to go check on these individuals in these departments to see if they need any help. Are they doing something there that they need assistance with? Ladders coming off the truck, or doing something with hose or whatever that they may need two people. Because a lot of times these guys are out there by themselves, and there are some things that, even though they're grown men, they can't do by themselves. So they need the help. So those guys are support and not an actual roamer. So that truck splits up. So one guy's going over here supervising, covering these guys in these two stations. This other guy's going over here, and they can still help with equipment or things like that. So that's kind of what's happening with the squad. And then a lot of times, towards the end of the day, if they get everything done, they come back together. And that's where you get these guys running the calls at night as teams of two. So that's kind of what we got going on with our present model at the point in time. We are looking with our part-time. Of course, y'all know we have part-timers, okay? So our part-timers aren't coming in to fill a 40 spot. Our part-timers are coming in and actually riding the truck, because it could be a flex day or somebody took a day off or whatever. So these guys that probably work somewhere else or whatever are taking time out of their day to come up, and they ride on that squad truck that day, and they're filling in and help do the same thing. We hope to put more of those on, because there's a certain dollar amount in that budget we can only spend on those part-timers. But we do have enough there that we can put some more on. Instead of us having part-timers 5 days a week, we're aiming to with enough folks that we can make that go to 7 days a week. So that's kind of where we're at operationally. And then, of course, the battalions going to the different calls, y'all hear them being toned out. But that's their immediate supervisor. The captain, a lot of times at the present time, is on a squad truck with those individuals.
Can I add something?
Yes, sir.
kind of been brought to my attention on this as far as your Mondays and Fridays. And I'm with you, the Roman thing's kind of used loosely, but I got a second, I don't know what other word to use, but, would it not be best on those Mondays and Fridays that the 21 staff that's on the trucks, instead of them going around and doing it, put them look it up, I mean, I'm sure y'all can do it, to see where the more higher call volume is in that area, and let them stay in that particular area on the Mondays and Fridays.
What kind of, I'm glad you said that, because kind of what Brady and myself, the assistant chiefs, talked about is with our crews is to help this thing progress and get better, because we can get better. I know that. But those departments that do that is we're getting ready to have a operations meeting with them that kind of touches on the base of what you're talking about, is if we can send them at least, because they got other things, other people's equipment that may need to be checked that day, but spend some time in that area as long as it may be 3 to 4 hours, but then they got time, they got to travel to there, then they got to travel back, so they may have a couple departments they're handling versus one. So I agree with what you're saying, but it may be only at the point in time till we get more personnel.
And I know
that we're there for some hours versus.
It will take a little bit of
45
research, but I mean, that one particular call spot might be from 6:30 a.m. till 8:30. If you go back 3 or 4 months and see where the calls originated at during that day, so as long as it was there during those hours, for sure.
Right.
And then
If we have a high volume
yeah.
in that area, that's the area we need to. I agree with that. We need to concentrate on that.
I mean, and y'all know everything happens between certain hours, pretty
Oh,
much.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
middle of the day is kind of slim for most places, but.
But that's, I'm glad you said that, because that's something we're talking about at the present time.
Your collection of 40-hour staffing, they're off, I know they work 4/10, so they're off Monday, Friday, they have that alternating.
They alternate.
Are they all alternating, or a certain section of them
Certain
alternate
sections north
different?
and south.
Okay, so
alternate.
they're not all off on the same
no,
rotation?
no.
Okay, okay.
It may be, and I'm just, this is an example, let's say that, Alexander is at 12. So if he's there, it may be that eight and the 13 guys may be off. So you've got somebody at 12 and you got somebody at 15.
Okay,
So somebody's still in that
Station one.
area
okay.
over somewhere.
It'd have to be a station one.
Or, yes, or Station 1. Not trying to leave station out, but I was just using that for an example. But like I say, when we're fully staffed, all those departments have somebody in. Hopefully we get back to that. Very good question. Already mentioned the radio list, so I'm not gonna hit that again. That was something we talked about earlier with the radio discussion. Hose list and receiving the quotes. I do have the quotes. This is something we talked about in here because we didn't know if we were going to get it in time. I do have the hose list with a total number of hose. I'm still waiting on quotes from some vendors on that, and we're getting late in the year, so this may be something that the departments, our staff, and everything that we may have to do the hose test this year, but at least we're heading in the right direction to try to get it done. If I can get them in and we can get it done, kudos for all of us. It'll save us some headache. But I'm not sure if I can get all those in because, as y'all know, we're ordering gear, we're ordering stuff that's being held back, and I hate to use this word, but COVID. So folks aren't getting back because a lot of people aren't working during this process. But I'm still waiting on those quotes.
Question for that, I mean, if you put it out there and somebody gives you a quote,
I did get one from Safe.
Well, how long do we have to
That's the only one I
wait?
got so far.
Is there a time limit we have to wait to get?
Through the county,
Three
we have
quotes?
to get 3 quotes because of the dollar amount that it would be. Correct?
So I mean, it could take a year or 2 years before we get all 3 quotes?
If we
No,
did-
no,
Or is there a
I'm,
limitation to it?
I think we can get them early, but I don't know if I'm gonna get everything in by the end of the year, and then is that time span, and we're gonna have enough time to get
For
everything
them, to get
done?
them scheduled, because they're also scheduled out.
Right.
That's what, cause I don't know their schedule, whoever's gonna get it, so their schedule may be booked, and might not be able to book us to the next year.
The reason I'm saying it, because I know it's been,
So they might be
we've
able to
already
do
been
it.
at this 3 or 4 months now. I didn't know if it was, and you said you was waiting on more quotes then, so I didn't know how long we was actually gonna give them.
We couldn't go for a quote until we got the number of hose tests to do a formal quote. So once we got the number of hose, then you go for the amount that. to
The
get a
first quote I got was nothing more than a suggestion, cause we had no numbers, hard numbers at the present time. I could've got them a roundabout number.
But do you have those hard numbers now?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
And you put it out, did you put out solicitation through the
I
county?
have put out,
Or is it just market research?
I've done some market research on it. I have got one quote. And one quote came in before the hard numbers hit.
Okay.
So that quote may even come back cheaper if they do it again.
But you'll advertise, you'll put solicitation out on the street and then,
Yes, it'll be where, we have at least 3, 4, as many vendors wanna bid on it, can bid on it.
when's the projected time you're gonna put the solicitation out on the street through procurement?
Already got 2 out, and I'm
Okay.
trying to get as many calls.
Okay.
This is something that just not everybody down the street
So it's
does.
out for active bid now?
Yes.
Okay.
If we can, firefighters out there that are actually wearing SCBA's, part of this is not no incentive or anything like that. This is so we take care of our people. They need to be fit tested yearly. Okay, that's a requirement. So those folks that are in your region, if you can remind those folks that all firefighters that are wearing these air packs, whether on car fires, structure fires, hazmat calls, whatever, they have to be fit tested. So we need to make sure that they know that if they have members that need that, we have, at the present time, a few people that can do that can come out and do it. So they need to start trying to set that up.
Also on that note, the EMR's got a different fit test they gotta take.
The
For the
N95.
N95 match, yes.
Yes.
And anyone that's running a medical call is supposed to have a fit test for an N95.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Any questions on that? That's pretty cut and dry. The box alarms. Guys, I have worked continuously on this. Brady has worked continuously on this. Travis has this in his hands. Okay? As far as redoing the information in the CAD and how our dispatchers here in the county see this, your second boxes are being created. I talked to Travis a little bit about this today. So Travis has a hard copy of everything that I went over with everyone. He has an email version of this that I put out to everyone. I spoke with every fire chief from structure fire to the second box, and then you start going down the list. It's trees down, you name it, hazmat calls. If we went entirely through every call, and your chiefs has lined up their boxes, how they requested it. Okay? That's even on the medical. We didn't just go do a second box on a structure fire, timeout, we're done. That's not what we did. We went through the entire box. Rescues have been added, so I want to commend the county, you guys, the departments working with the rescue squads, because that's something we need to do. Because when we're running out of a house and we're hot, we're fixing to change it, put another solar on, and we're red or something like that, and we might not need to go in, even our rescues are taking care of us, not only the civilian public, but they're taking care of our firefighters too. So I commend those guys for doing that. I commend the fire chiefs that sit here and added rescues to their calls, because that's how we're gonna get them plugged back in. We want volunteers, y'all are helping plug in volunteers by requesting these rescue squads to run these calls. So I commend you guys on this board. I commend the fire chiefs out there for doing that, because on a lot of these calls, talking with the fire chiefs, you guys have stepped up by doing that. So I just want to commend you on that. It's gonna take him some time to get these things in. Be patient. I can't rush him, because he's got a lot going on with managing that dispatch. The Station 2 has requested another box, so Salem is turning their city limits into box 203. We looked at all your boxes were already on there. Station 8, Chief Wilkerson has requested, I think it's 6 boxes. So they're gonna have to color that map that has the boxes for the fire and the rescue on it. They're gonna have to color code Salem's. They're gonna have to come in and they're gonna have to cut up Station 8's area, fair play for Chief Wilkerson. So his boxes go into the map also, so it looks how he wants it. Travis has the maps. Chief Wilkerson shared that with me. We shared it with Travis. He's getting on that. I've talked to Lisa that does the maps. And also Mountain Rest, Station 4. Station 4 is requested to add 3 boxes in Mountain Rest. Kind of help him out up there. So I'm just saying, be patient with Travis, because it's going to take time, because not only are we changing things in the CAD, but now we're changing the county map. Okay? So it's going to take them some time to do that, because after talking to Lisa, that's not an easy fix of just add some color and go on about it, because of the streets and how it's laid out. So I'm just asking for patience. If y'all will, tell your chiefs it's in their hands. We've worked, we've done the leg work. That's why I'm sitting here, I'm doing something on the computer, and some phone call, and I'm working on box alarms. Well, you're not both. So it's in Travis's hands. Any questions on that? That was a task.
We'll give you a deadline to December 21.
Do what?
I said, we'll give you a deadline to December 21.
I'll pass that to Travis. How about that? We'll see what he says. The apparatus builds, that was the last thing I had to go over. We talked about that a little bit, Tony at the Chiefs meeting, and Station 4, Station 10 has approved their apparatus, and the Chiefs have seen it, signed off on it. So Station 10's new truck and Station 4's new truck's being built at the present time.
But on that note, we're gonna go with the same trucks like we got the last time.
Yes, sir.
Makes it a lot easier on everybody than trying to custom build trucks for people.
And I tell you, Motor Pool really likes it. That
But it-
all of them are the same.
Is there an option for like a top mount on that?
Not anymore. They're all supposed to be exactly the same, and that was, we tried to change that after it was originally ordered, and it had already been ordered, that chassis had already been ordered, so that all of them would be the same.
The only thing I've got about the whole truck with the chassis, it won't fit in my station.
The length,
Height,
height,
Come on, top mount,
either one, I mean,
either one of them.
yeah, they're both within an inch of each other.
9 foot, 9, is that the height? But that was all I had on the trucks.
I agree with Jamie, as long as in a way the builder can lower the trucks down a little bit.
That's as low as it can go now, meet the standard. with the chassis, you know, if you go with a lighter duty truck, they can, but not with the motor we put in it, the suspension that we were requiring you, we've asked them to be as low as they can, and that, they have said that's as low as they can put that truck.
That's what I can't remember the height, but y'all know the one at 11 just barely fits in.
Yeah, it probably fits your station, and we had to do some retrofit.
I think Chief McCurry said y'all got an inch clearance. That's it.
We had to raise the top board up.
Yeah.
There's no
Or
way
we
I can, mine can't be raised.
Low profile tires.
I just,
All right.
I don't know what we're gonna do when it comes to that time for it. I really don't.
We'll have to look at it.
That's all I had, Chair.
Is there any way we could get a list of, an updated capital replacement list of what's been updated, what's been replaced, what's been,
What's been replaced and what's looking to be
what's
replaced?
looking to be, if we could get an updated list on that, please?
Yeah, I think Mike's got that already, don't he?
No other questions on this, we'll move on. Region 1, Commissioner updates, I've not heard anything unless someone else has. Region 2,
He covered some of it with the box alarm stuff, the protocol for like the sign units leaving districts. You know, my guys are talking about, there's a lot of people going to one call that ends up being a nothing call. You know, and the only way I can, whoever the first man there is, give a faster size up, tell them what they got. They can cancel a bunch of units coming from everywhere. You know, take the call that went out right before we came here. The guy turned the kayak over, Jocassee Lake. They told him out. He got a life jacket on, turned the kayak over.
Sounded like me, we just floating, need somebody to get him to shore.
They told him out the dive team and everybody else for that call. That's an overkill.
Unfortunately, that was considered a boating accident.
Yeah.
And a boating accident, per the box alarm, tells the dispatcher to tell them this, and this.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So the first person, it's important for them to update, but unfortunately, with the system that we're using, when we chose to go to the box alarms, if it fits into that box alarm, or it doesn't fit, they pick one that it fits, that's what you get.
Probably going under drowning.
Or a drowning, it may have been a drowning, you know, I'd have to look, I didn't look into
Because that's where all your rescues and,
well, boating accident, let's do.
Well, that goes back, like you say, to
Yeah.
the box alarms and the first person getting there and saying, cancel all these.
some people fix that in their box, as far as took some folks off that was maybe unnecessary for a first response that they could request. And some people that maybe don't have or blessed with as much personnel has added another department, so they do have more help coming on those type calls.
I guess our guy, Station 11, he's always 6 minutes from every call in the county. That's what my guys are trying to get him slowed. Well, yesterday I heard I guess the battalion chief canceled him, told him to go back to his station, they had enough help. Yeah, more of that stuff's got to go on. It's getting more dangerous of them hitting somebody responding to calls from 8 miles away or whatever. And that's on the volunteer side and you know, people try to help each other, but you know, the ER1's having to come to our area and help us as much as possible. And that's the one county thing. Let's see. And radio traffic management, you know, everybody and their brother wants to talk on the radio now. It's getting where it messes everybody up so bad they don't know where they're supposed to be or where they're supposed to be going.
Well, it's the trucks going en route, trying to talk. It's, a lot of times you hear so-and-so responding POV and it's a little bit of everybody.
Well, that's what it is.
But like, I remember one night we talked here, the required initial equipment that's being toned out is the ones that need to be going on the radio and, answering up. Not everybody and their brother needs to be on that radio, because if the trucks need to talk to each other, I think that's important, because one may see a tree's down or need to divert another apparatus around another way. I mean, and I think that kind of goes, with all of us managing our communications.
Well, that's what I'm glad. It's the volunteer side too. Our station has done it. All the stations in the county does it. I guess y'all listen to the boat wreck. It's a RV park in Cane Creek Landing, and there's so much talking on the radio, nobody know what was going on. But I don't know how you manage that. I stay on my guys about when we get on the scene of a call.
I don't have to talk on the radio, I'm not going to.
Everybody's going BTAC 11 or something else, except for the incident commander. And we have a lot of trouble out of that. They don't do that. This guy will take command, and then 3 more talk on the radio to the captain. We just got to work on that as a whole. Other than that, like I say, the box alarms are.
You said folks aren't switching to VTAC, is that what you said, Tony?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Okay.
But eventually, it just gets everybody so messed up. They don't know where they're going to or what they're supposed to be doing. And I don't know how we fix all of us talking to our station and trying to, y'all need to have one incident commander and everybody else stay off the radio. And sometimes you don't hear, I've done it myself, somebody going route. I didn't hear them going route, so I'll come right back on there and say, I'm in, get stuff like this. That's all I got for Region 2.
Thank you.
Region 3 is not present. Region 4.
I'm gonna let's go home early.
Region 5, I don't have anything from those stations. As far as my part, question on ID cards, I was reading some minutes from the Rescue Commission. They're still on hold pending.
We're waiting for the physical decision
Okay.
to finish the IDs
Okay.
so that we can have the right information on the IDs. So they still could be done as they were, and we've been doing them as they were. I mean, he's still putting them out, but the new one is not yet.
I didn't watch the video from the Rescue Commission, but I do have a question. Did they give feedback about the non-response and reports like we did? No? Okay. And reading the rest of the minutes, I believe Region 5 for the rescue has been doing a survey. Your polling members on response, is that correct? Okay. And that,
I don't know how successful it was.
okay. And that's kind of tying into some of the stuff I've heard tonight. There was a lot of discussion from Chief Brock, I guess on our operations. There was discussion about, there not being roaming trucks. They're out supporting other 40-hour stations. There's been a lot of work on the box alarms. There's some concern that the current CAD system we got, you can't differentiate between different times of the day, different shifts or anything like that. So would it be helpful or beneficial to engage in some sort of analysis, some sort of study to take this data, going back to the incidents like Mr. Chief Brock talked about, finding those hot spots during the day of the week, time of the day, stuff like that, and figuring out where to position those folks at night, at day, whatever.
So one of the things, that's also what is supposed to help the GPS.
Okay.
That's also part of that, because that actually uses a different part of CAD than the box alarm system. So it will help us, at the same time, get us the data to do better too when it comes to that. We can look up that data for positioning, but at the same time, that's gonna also, again, if dispatch doesn't exactly know where that truck is, it doesn't do any good. They have to listen and go, I know I'm close to that call. Where when we GPS it, dispatch will know that they're close to that call. That's all part of that build out to help us do that same thing.
Okay.
Because we know right now, unless someone knows the area really well, they may not know they're really close to a call because they're driving XYZ to wherever.
Well, going back to that, I mean, I don't know what's happening now, but 5-6 years ago, when the iPads were put on the trucks, a lot of that was for dispatch, and it would tell exactly where they're at.
Dispatch never saw them.
What?
Dispatch never saw them.
Well, I know other chiefs can find them.
Oh, I know. Dispatch never saw them because it is not compatible with the CAD system.
It doesn't show up on active. They
It
have
goes
the
on
active deal.
It's their system is not compatible for mapping with active 911. That's why we're having to swap over to this other GPS system that runs on a Windows platform, not a iPad. And it's not an app. Zerker does not work out. Yeah.
So with all the increased data, with the stuff, I mean, it seems like it would be helpful to compile all that stuff and make sure that you're allocating resources in the right area at the right time. And if you need some help with that, I think it'd probably be appropriate
I think
to
we
do
can look at that,
I
what we
mean,
need to do.
if y'all feel like that'd be beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hot spots.
Okay. That's all I have. I don't have anything special for the report, so if there's anything else good for the good of the cause, we'll adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn.
I've got one more question. On the thing here, where can the fireman make sure he get all this turned in? He can just call.
So we're gonna get a list to the chiefs of who needs paperwork turned in and who doesn't. For like, are you talking the higher paperwork or the training stuff?
Training stuff and everything. Can he call like?
To make sure they have their physical and
got
all that?
everything he needs. I don't know if y'all keep it on a computer.
Well, it's on ERS, everything is in ERS. That's where it's all at. If you look up that person, it'll tell you how many hours he went training that time, if he has CPR training and those kind of things. And I'll put a note down to work with Brady to get a list of those that, aren't meeting it.
Well, that's a
And
lot
then
of
if
work.
there's something, October 1, it stops, but we know that we give a month to get all that straight. So if someone's missing something, October 1, we do a report, we'll try to get that out to you. Okay? But the key is we have to have those rosters also to make sure they're up to date.
Turn those in to get things.
Right.
Chief, we went through that roster deal a few months ago, and it was put out. Has there not been?
We can use that roster.
I know, but has people not went in, and have you not seen any changes in that since?
There's been a few. Yeah, I just know that we want to use the most up-to-date roster if people are, and it's, that's why I'm saying every quarter, we're supposed to put that roster in, so that for the next quarter, that's what we use, but for your check. This is your roster, and we're going through someone else's, and it's been the same roster for 3 times, and new people weren't on that roster. And we wanna make sure that everyone gets included that is eligible, because we're going off of that roster.
I'll make that motion.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?